Welcome to Visionaries, where we believe your powerful message is the best way to grow your business, impact the world, and live a meaningful life. Today we have on Tamara Zantell. Tamara, how are you?
I am amazing. How are you?
Good. Good. I'm so excited to get connected with you. I just need a little bit about your story before stepping into this. And we haven't really met too much, but we're in the same business group. Tell us why you decided to drop out of corporate and build your own brand.
So I decided to drop out of corporate to not just build my own brand, but to help my daughter. At the time,
Mhm.
she was 16. My 16-year-old daughter built her brand. She started a business when she was 9 years old, plant-based skincare.
Wow.
We struggled in the
Yeah.
beginning. It
Oh,
was
a
a
struggling 9-year-old entrepreneur,
yes, struggling. Yes, the life of a 9-year-old entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And I really should say I struggled being her parent manager,
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to squeeze, push, and get her into the rooms, seats at tables in order for her to be recognized as an actual formulator, as an artisan at that time, in the skincare world. That is, well, you might not know, it's extremely competitive. So I could fill you in on all the stuff that happened before I decided to actually retire. But I remember sitting at my desk, looking out the window, and I'm like, this is a really nice place to be. I love being here. But then I had this feeling, this overwhelming feeling like, but am I going to be here forever? Like we have the potential to build this amazing brand, but I'm not giving it a fair shot. That was like the first time I had a conversation with myself, and I was just honest about not giving Xandra, which is my daughter's name and also the brand's name, a real fair chance to be successful by giving it my undivided attention. So I made a decision in that moment, and I got up, walked down the hall, and I told my boss, and I was like, I think I'm going to leave in 30 days. I have other stuff to do. And he was like, so you're going to go sell soap with your daughter? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I was like, not only soap, but lotion and lip balm and a whole bunch of other stuff, whatever she wants. I'm going to put my all behind her, just like I put my all behind you. And I'm going to help her build $1 million brand. And that's what I did.
Wow. And this is, how old was Xander at this point?
She was 16.
Oh, she was 16 by the time you left. Okay.
Yeah, she was 16.
So what have you, we were talking before we hit record, and this has been now about 2.5 years for you. What
Yeah.
has the road since dropping out of corporate been like?
Um, it's been a whirlwind for Xandra, the brand. It just took off. I felt like it was a baby that just needed the attention, and we all know that whatever we water grows, right? So once we started to water it, and I sat down and got really clear about what I could bring to the corporation to support my daughter's dream. And then I did that first, and then I brought the family in on it. And I said, listen, if we're going to do this, we're all going to be affected by this process. So we need to all be in, So I have 5 children. So it was like all in. So we made like the necessary adjustments, and we downsized. At the time, me and my husband were both, working in corporate, but we also had consultant jobs. Like we went from 2 BMWs to 1 family car. And, like we literally changed our life so that we could pour all our resources into building a family business. We gave our children roles. I agreed to not take a salary and just kind of just dig in and do whatever. It was tough, but as soon as we started to, kind of hold hands in a way and work to building the business, it just started to pop, and it just opportunity after opportunity started to come, and it just really was amazing. It just really was amazing. So I have no regrets.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sorry. Can we pause for one moment?
Sure.
I've got no lock on my door, and my 4-year-old,
I saw you.
yeah,
I was like, oh my
he
goodness.
he sneaks in when I can't control it.
That's
Hold on one
awesome.
second. Thank you.
He's so cute. I saw him strolling by in the back.
I know. I was trying to put my hands out. You're like, stop. just roll with it, I guess. It's the nature of things. I had a lock in our LA home. I could lock him away and he could just scream on the other side of the door. But
Right. Like my dog sitting here looking at me through the glass door. She's like, "Are you serious? Like I can't be in there. Get out."
yeah. Oh
Yeah, no,
man.
I understand. But that's the joy of working from home. And I think everybody
It
understands
is.
it. It is.
Yeah.
I'm doing live stream, all kinds of stuff happens. I'm like, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Well, and then you have more kids at home, right? Than just Xandra?
Yes. I almost said unfortunately because my kids are all adults, technically. I will tell you
Okay.
that they're all adults. So my daughter Mercedes is she's the eldest. She just turned 27. She's actually
Okay.
married. She lives in Kentucky. She's responsible for my two grand beauties, the best little humans in the whole entire world.
Yeah.
I wasn't really excited about being a grandmother, right? Or Nana, they call me. But then I was like, how can I live my life without these people? They're so amazing. But she's married and they have their life. She's married to a NFL football player. So they're
Oh,
fine.
wow.
Yeah, they're fine. And then our oldest boy, LJ, he plays professional football in Canada.
Okay.
But we haven't seen him in a while because he's in Canada and they locked down the border, which is not fun, but it's life, our life right now. And then there's James. He is also a professional football player, but he's on pause right now. He's going back and forth to North Carolina. But since he's been off work this year, he's working to finish his last semester from John Carroll University from college, which I'm so excited about because he paused because he got drafted. And then now he's home in Buffalo while he's doing school virtually. And he's actually a fulfillment manager at Xandra, which
Wow.
is really cool because he started, in production and doing little things. But when he came back home, of course, he got a little taste of living life
Oh,
with
yeah.
mom and dad. And now he came back with like dreams and he wants to start a t-shirt line and do this. And so we just empowered him by giving him a larger position. And now he has some things that he's in charge of. So you can't tell him anything. He's like,
Family business.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally business. And then there's Xandra. And then Josiah, he's 19. So he's home and he's a production assistant at Xandra. And Xandra is also here. And I'm like, whenever you're ready, you can go.
So cool.
But
So is that your main business now still? Or I think you hinted
no,
at you're doing some other
yeah.
projects and plans.
So what happened is once I left corporate and things started to, kick off for Xandra and we were able to expand and hire and we really started to operate as a company. I felt like it was my opportunity to do what I wanted to do. Of course, I love working for my teenage child. However, the pay is not great. I'm going to tell you. So I was like, what do I want to do? For the first time, I was in a position where I could really think about what made me happy. And I was reminded that back in like 2012, I remember saying I think I was having a conversation with my mother or someone. And I was like, if I ever get to the point where people care about what I think or what I have to say, about kid entrepreneurship or the way the world sees kids in business, I'm going to I'm going to start a movement around that. So I started Raising a Mogul. So Raising a Mogul is my company that I launched in 2017. And what I do is I work with parents who have children in business. So kids that want to start a business or kids that or parents who have a child that wants to start or parents whose kids have been in business, but they just don't really understand business or they're looking to grow or expand that business. So that's what Raising a Mogul does. So we have a community of parents who are really, we're working to change their mindset around what's really possible when it comes to a child's idea and how that can turn into a full family legacy in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I love that so much because this is like, I've always been kind of entrepreneurial, but I didn't know what was possible until several years ago when I had left my corporate job like you and recognizing the power of entrepreneurship and how important it is to learn it at such a young age, because then you can have self-reliance, you can create more control out of your career, and have a lot more. I feel like there's a lot more opportunity behind it, and it teaches you so many other skills, that real world skills that say a typical education kind of robs you from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the world teaches us that we only have a few options, right? It's like,
Hmm.
graduate from high school, go to college, get a job. No,
Yeah.
get a good job. Get a good job. And now we all know, right? Like, what does that even mean anymore? So yeah, there's like the elite jobs or jobs, but well, who's to say that that's um, your child's destiny? You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So I think with many of the parents I work with, it's or that are just in our community that are exposed to other families doing something different. That's the really big thing here. It's just all about doing something different and being around other people that are interested in doing something different, or at least exploring the idea that there are different things to do. I know my parents, dibbled and dabbled in entrepreneurship. We had a candy store when we were little. My mom always inspired us to have our own and start your own. But there's a difference between seeing entrepreneurship and seeing people, sell stuff out of their trunk, or, see someone, at the salon and someone selling CDs or whatever. Like, okay, that's great. That's entrepreneurship, right? But I'm
Yeah.
talking about systems, procedures, like growing it to the point where it's something that you can actually pass down to the next generation. That's not something that many of us see.
Hmm.
We see it out there, but many of the families I work with, they don't realize that it's a possibility for them. And more importantly, they don't realize or even consider that it could start with your 6-year-old child
Yeah.
or your 13-year-old son's amazing experiment or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
exciting.
And one thing I love in thinking about that too is if you think of any business out there, it all started with an entrepreneur. It all started from that first step.
Mhm.
No matter the age of the person, or their, in some ways, their skill level. It's just a matter of taking this idea and taking it to market, and from those people who have entrepreneurial tendencies or doing activities to try to sell. There is a whole nother level of, you mentioned the systems and the structure,
Mhm.
which really I feel like separates those who make it a hobby with some side income or a full blown career out of it. And probably something you had to tackle, when you're like, wait a minute, I'm not making tons of money. Like the business is $1 million brand, but maybe, you were seeing other opportunities beyond the Xander brand to,
Yeah.
to take to market yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we definitely that I love that you mentioned hobby, because that was a big transition for us when we decided that Xandra was going to be a business and it was no longer going to be a hobby. So she at 9 years old, it wasn't until she was about I would say until she was about 12, then, the things she wanted and the way she spoke about her future, I was like, wait a minute, like, this is detailed. Like, this is something you need more. Really, she needed more than me. She needed more than what I can give her. And I will say this, it hurts me to say it, but I will say it all day long now that I've matured into the space. I would say that I held my child back. I believe I did, because my thinking and my mindset there was, at that time, I was still looking at her as a child, so therefore I wasn't respecting the business for what it could be, if that makes any sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
I was looking at it as a hobby. So I didn't invest. And we know in entrepreneurship, you have to invest. You can't just lean to your own understanding and say, oh, this looks great to us. This packaging is good. We don't need anybody else's opinion. I was being more of her mom and parenting with ego, thinking that we had it all together, and we didn't. So at 12, I enrolled her into the University of Buffalo Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership. They had a year-long business management program, and it was all, of course, it was only for adults. So we had to do a whole lot of stuff to get her
Yeah.
enrolled at just 12
Wow.
years old. Yeah,
What
and
an
she
opportunity.
graduated actually at the top of her class at 13. That experience changed her as a person, and it literally changed her life and the scope of the business. That transition was when it was clear business plan. We hired a company to help us rebrand. We just tore down the brand. The brand actually had a whole different name then. It was called Azariah's Innocence, which was a cute name, but it was just terrible. Everything was terrible. So, but after graduating from there, it was like, okay, this is a business. Let's get this business going. And then it just started to expand from there. And as we relaunched in 2014, and then 2015, we, had started to nail the marketing piece and really understanding what we wanted it to stand for. And she was super clear that she wanted, the brand to be social good. And I'm sorry, can you
Oh,
hear?
hey, you're fine. That's normal.
Oh,
It's
okay.
either that or a 4-year-old, right? No.
Yeah, she is like, but she has to do it so close to me. I want her to go somewhere else in the house. There's a truck outside or something near the house. I apologize. I don't even know what I was saying.
Yeah, it was the rebranding to
Oh
Xandra,
yeah,
figuring out what you
yeah.
wanted to stand for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so she had to get super clear on what she wanted the company to stand for. And then once we nailed that brand story, and she our mission, our vision, our core values, all those things, once we got all that stuff under control, and I say it like it was a big long experience, because keep in mind I'm dealing with a teenager. So
Mhm.
even the rebrand took a whole year, because I didn't know there was 58,000 colors of shades of pink. You know what I mean? And then when you're dealing with a child that wears like hot pink Doc Martens and she has blue hair, my daughter's always been super creative. She worked with a designer directly, because I was like, I don't have time for this. Like, it was stressing me out. So everything took forever, but it was fine, because once it was done, it was perfect to her, and the brand just exploded, So I really think, that process of going from hobby to real business, I learned it so like intimately. That's why I feel like I'm effective with helping other parents. Like, I can look at what they're doing and say, nope, don't waste no time. Let's get this done. You got to fix this, fix that. If you decide hobby, business, because businesses invest. They invest in the things that they're weak in. They invest in looking the part. You say you want to be on the shelves of Target. Okay, well, let's see what those brands look like. And that's really what our reality was. We used to walk Target for a year. We walked Target every now and then. And she's like, oh, I can see my products here. I can see them here. And then once we did the work, she's in 762 Targets. Like, who knew that was going to happen? She knew that was going to happen. And it was my job to help her get there.
Yeah. Wow. Which perfectly born, like, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, like born out of that was definitely this Raising a Mogul brand as well. What
Absolutely.
I guess one thing I want to hit on too, which is so important to what I do at Content Supply, is this idea of messaging and setting a vision out for
Mhm.
your brand. Do you feel like that's something that you need to do at like phase one of the entrepreneur journey? Is to set that in place, or do you feel like that comes naturally or becomes a better fit later on after you get into business?
I think it's best to have it in the beginning. I think the foundation brand work is super important, and it's critical to any brand. But do I think it's probably one of the hardest parts of building a business? Yes, which is why
Yes.
people
Yeah.
invest, right? Because we want to sell stuff. We want to make money. We don't necessarily understand how this fire, this passion inside of us, how it relates to the world, or how to get that message out to people where they care, which is where a lot of entrepreneurs are failing. I talk to parents about this all the time. We just want to say we love it. It's what we like. And then we put it out. It's like, okay, what's the story behind it? Like, why should people even care? And, what's the message? And, it's just, I would say yes. I think it definitely should be a part of that foundational work. And I think the companies that you see, or that we think we see, appear out of nowhere, but they have it all together. And then next thing you know, they're, on the Forbes list or wherever. It's like, well, because they spent 3 years building a brand. They spent 2 years getting, building an audience, and building audience around this message and this vision. And they're clear. Whereas a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses come out swinging, and they're just happy because they have a great logo or whatever the heck. And that's not it.
Yeah.
That's not all.
And one thing I definitely seen too, from the branding perspective, which I would say underneath that is, like you talked about with Xandra, investing in the design, into the messaging, the vision. Businesses can definitely get started without that,
Mhm.
but you can only grow, like what I've seen, I'll speak from personal experience too, is that you can only grow to a certain point until it's like, okay, when the rubber actually hits the road and I want to go to the next level, I need to get really clear on like, what am I building here?
Right.
What do I stand for?
That's it.
Who am I serving? And all these things. And so, yeah, you can make money, make sales, but a lot of times too, in that phase, that early phase before branding really kicks in and becomes vital, it's usually just relationships alone. Like, you're building a relationship-based business, which every business should be that way. But I think without like getting ready for the next level, um, it will kind of keep you stuck.
I totally agree.
If you're
I
not doing
totally
branding. Yeah.
agree. And I think we also have to be very clear what type of business, which is I feel like what you're saying, we want to build, because we can sell widgets
Mhm.
all day and nobody
Oh
even
yeah.
knows that we're the widget seller. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of ads and stuff rolling around for, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we don't know why people started buying or whoever started selling the pet rock, but it took over, right? So, that was a thing,
Yeah, it was.
so absolutely, people buy things without a storyline, but I think if we're passionate about what we do and we're really committed to serving or helping people, that piece, it just makes more sense to do in the beginning, because we get stuck and then the investment sometimes is even greater. And then we have to look at it. With me, I can talk about, for us personally, if I had it started in the beginning with building the brand the right way and really, talking to my child and getting a feel for, the impact we wanted to make on the world, she would have made her first $1 million before she was 13, much less 16, or we would have been able to help feed and clothe and buy books and bikes for girls in Malawi starting in 2012 or 2011, maybe, instead of in 2014 and 15. So I just think about the time and resources. I don't want to say wasted, because we grew to where we are, which is why I have a story to tell, right? But my thing is, when I talk to my parents, it's like, okay, I want to help you do something similar to what we did, but in half the time or less. And that work has to do with really everything you just said from the beginning. That's where we start,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm so glad you shared that example too, because um it does, like, people don't realize how much money they're actually losing out on by not focusing on this early on. Let me see. Oh, my camera turned off. And so by investing in that, it's only going to grow you faster, but in the right way.
Right.
With Raising a Mogul, so going to that brand real quick, talk to me about the vision you have there, and what's kind of next for you 2020 onward.
Awesome. Thank you for asking me that.
Yeah.
Raising a Mogul is really a movement. I spent this week, for example, of this movement. We have several programs under Raising a Mogul, and one of them is Young Mogul Prep School. It's actually a brand that Xandra started when she was 15. And then as she started to be a speaker and travel and get busy, she set it aside. But I picked it back up with Raising a Mogul, and it's a preparatory school for just young moguls, just for kids that want to start businesses and grow businesses, but it's all about the kids. So the kids meet a couple times a month on Zoom and they're working on their businesses. But I have the amazing opportunity to teach them a business lesson every single month. And this Tuesday we met, and it would have been their pep rally, because they have pep rallies every month. And we had a board meeting, all of the little kids. So I have like 40 kids on
That's
Zoom.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
we had a board meeting, because it's like there's young CEOs. And our board meeting was to discuss their end of the year marketplace, where they're all going to have an opportunity to present and share everything they've been working on throughout the year. And it's also like their graduation. And because this class is our freshman class, they're going to be sophomores. And when I tell you, spending time with those kids is like the highlights of my month. It is the best. Like it's just like the instant reminder of what Raising a Mogul is all about. Because first, there's tons of opportunities for kids now, not when Xandra started, but now, to have access to information and pitch competitions and to enroll in classes, and this stuff in schools now where you can enroll your kid into an entrepreneurship something, right? But where Raising a Mogul fills the gap is, you could teach the kids about business all you want, but they still have to go home to parents that have no idea what they're talking about, right? The majority of the parents, the kids are all excited about it, and then they get home and mom and dad is like, what? You have to go to college. You're going
It's
to
like you're
school.
bringing home a math problem, and the parents are like,
Like, no, we're
yeah,
not doing that. We're not investing in that. You can't do that, right? Dream killers, right?
yeah,
Warning. So, Raising a Mogul, that movement, it's, it starts with the kid's idea, but and we're working with the parents, but it kind of rounds it out with, we have stuff for the kids and stuff for the parents. So moving forward, it's all about creating opportunities where the parents with a full family comes together and we work to support each other. So we have a live event. Well, last year we had a live event in Atlanta. This year we did it virtual. But my vision is we'll continue to do live meetups and experiences where the kids can actually be together and see each other, because representation matters. If I remember how lonely Xandra was, and if you don't see someone else that can't drive either in business, you don't even think it's possible. Like your mom can tell you all the time that this is great, we're going to do this. But if they feel lonely in the process, it usually doesn't lead to success, But at
oh
the
yeah,
same time, the parents need the same thing, because many of the parents, if you say your 4-year-old, he's going to be an author, or he's going to start a podcast, or start selling, whatever, a lot of people are going to be like, is he serious? Depending on who your friends are. My
oh
friends
yeah,
did that to me. You know what
oh
I mean?
yeah.
They were like, you're crazy. Let her be a kid.
Well, and there's that, and like there's also a stigma with certain people in this idea of entrepreneurship that not everyone thinks that when you're an entrepreneur that you're rich. I mean, I met this couple, and I think we we're at Disneyland, and it was like a random day in the week. This is last year when Disneyland was open. We were in LA, and it was this older couple, and we're talking to them, and they're like, "So what do you do for work?" I'm like, "Oh, I run my own business. I'm an entrepreneur." Just kind of, that's kind of my regular simplified way to talk to general public. And they're like, "Oh, an entrepreneur, huh?" They kind of like rolled their eyes at it, and I haven't really had that happen too much, to be honest, but it's because they had a negative association with a son-in-law who was a entrepreneur and saying he had his own business but not making any money. And
Right.
so it's like, here is their daughter, stepping up and trying to do it. So a lot of people, whether it's entrepreneurship or maybe even capitalism and business ownership, that there's this idea that it's cutthroat, you're in it just for the money. But I
Mhm.
think that's why it goes back into what we started talking about a little bit ago with this idea of having a vision, a message, and a way you want to impact the world. And
Absolutely.
Xandra, you're doing amazing things with, obviously, Raising a Mogul. You're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs.
It's
And so to me, it's a reformatting of how we think about entrepreneurship, especially as we're
absolutely.
young.
Yeah, my goal with Raising a Mogul is to prepare the parents so that when their child, because I'm gonna, just say it, that most of our kids are smarter than us. Like they're not afraid. Like, yes, they need to be taught, they need to be guided and all that, but they have this like this they don't fear, and they just have this fire in them when they see something and they want it. They just go after it, so they have things that kids have things in them that I completely admire. And the work I do with the parents is like, okay, do you see how excited your son or daughter is? Like, if you say you want to help them do this, I need you to learn how to do it right. So it's the idea of becoming a parent manager and being able to separate the two, understanding when you have to be this child's mother or father, and then understanding when you have to negotiate a deal like a manager, like for
Yeah.
real. It's one. And then this is the other thing. I just lost my train of thought, but because the other piece of that is there are a lot of kids that are being taken advantage of, because it's super cute, to have a 6-year-old with a bakery business, or a 13-year-old that is a public speaker, or whatever, kids get a lot of attention, right? So you have a lot of businesses and people and organizations popping up saying they want to put your kid on a flyer, or they want to have a kid panel or whatever. But it's like, okay, well, those kids, just like you pay the adults, you should pay the kids. And the parents don't know what to ask. They don't even know how to negotiate deals. They don't know how to create opportunities for their kids. They don't know. There's all kinds of things, they don't know. But because they're just looking at it as a hobby instead of as a business. But for their business, they're doing all the things. But for their child's business, it's just like, oh, we'll get
It's
there.
nice and cute. Yeah.
It's nice and it's cute. And I'm like, but the interesting thing I noticed, and I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks, is like, if you say your son or daughter wants to play hockey or wants to dance or be a swimmer, Like that's so acceptable. Like if they want to be like an equestrian, or isn't that what, when you ride horses, an equestrian? What do they call
I
it?
have no idea.
I don't know.
Still in
Like
the background. Yeah.
that's an expensive sport, right?
Yeah, it is.
Um, then you go all in. You buy the dance shoes, the hockey puck, the
Oh yeah.
pads, the football stuff, and then you show up 5 days a week and cheer them on, right? Drop them
Oh
off,
yeah.
pick them up, the whole thing. But when it comes to your child's business, it's like, oh, we'll get to it. So it's like, why do you put all that behind a sport, but you won't equally give equal share to the idea of them starting a business that could actually turn into amazing thing? Or maybe not. Maybe they're just going to learn some super awesome skills, you know? So it's just really like a mindset shift about what's normal, air quotes, and what's not normal for kids.
Yeah. Wow. Well, what would kind of like a wrapping up thought that I want to pull specific to Raising a Mogul? What would you tell to a parent and a child who is considering building their own business? They have an idea and they want to get started.
You want me to talk to them individually or together?
I like the idea of together. If you were sitting them both down.
Yes, and it should be done together. I love this.
Yeah.
So I would say the first step is a really critical conversation for the parent to really first ask appropriate, the appropriate questions of the child, and give them the freedom to really just kind of like brain dump their full idea out, and this is the hard part for that parent to just kind of sit there and take notes and just listen to your child's heart. And the reason why I say that is because many of us parent with ego, and the first thing we want to do is either we take over or we tell them why it won't work. And that's where creativity gets killed. So that would be the first thing, having that conversation, letting your child speak freely, and then you figuring out, okay, what do I have in me that I could do to support this idea, this dream? And then what don't I have? So then once you know what you don't have, you can go seek that, and and once you're clear about what you can give and contribute, you can make a plan for that. So it's really like that initial brainstorming, idea creation. But it's really also a real just honest, hard talk. Like you need to know, like you want to sell pens or make lip gloss or whatever it is, or start a YouTube channel. Let's talk about how many hours that's going to take. Let's do our research and see, how is your life going to change? How will my life change? How will your brother and sister's lives change? The time, the sacrifice, just the real. Before we buy anything, before we invest in anything, before we do all the things, that's the initial piece. And that's usually like a 1 to 2 week experience, really. It's the start of a conversation. But as we start to do our research, and your child will change his or her mind maybe 4 or 5 times, which is okay. It's normal. You have to kind of get over yourself and let them fly and really think all crazy, whether it's going to be dinosaurs and puppies, whatever. Let it go and you'll figure it out, right? When you reel them back in. But our children want to be heard. And we as parents want to consider this process, starting with this first meeting, as us becoming our child's potential business partner, as opposed to, I'm parenting this kid that wants to start a business. It's like, no, we're going to do something together. And what does that look like? And how will that impact our lives together and our entire family?
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. What a great thing to end off on, but also send off to people who have on visionaries out there, entrepreneurs who may be a kid themselves, right, or feeling like they need, even if you're older and needing to get that buy-in from your parents, that kind of validation we feel like we sometimes need. I think that's a solid message for that. Well, this has been amazing to connect with you, and thank you so much for sharing. I'm super inspired. I've got my kids are not as old as yours, but I've got a 4-year-old at home that I'm like, I want him to, be raised into this mogul type entrepreneur. I get so excited for what's possible for these kids.
He will be, because it's a part of who you are. So
yeah.
He sees you working, and he's definitely not shy.
Yeah, no, he's not. He walked right into the room and he knows dad's working in his office. But to your point early on, I mean, there's such an incredible silver lining to having something of your own. And the fact that, like, when I came from corporate, I wasn't seeing him for 9 hours a day. And now it's like, I can see him the little pocket moments throughout the day, or maybe I want to linger a little longer. And it's just an incredible opportunity to have such easy access to our family that
Yeah,
way.
it's beautiful.
Then,
Create the life you want.
yeah, yeah. So
That's
it's
it.
incredible.
It sounds so cliche-ish, but it's
But
actually
it's simple. Like at the end of it all, like I don't need to have, you know, thousands and thousands of employees in a company, I work with, like as long as you can live comfortable, like this is my part of my vision is like, I want to live a very, very comfortable life. Yeah. I want to make lots of money along the way and serve lots of people, but it can also be very simple. I
yeah,
don't have to be on the face of every billboard if that's a thing anymore, or, you know, uh,
some
every
places,
single magazine out there,
right,
if that's not me. So this is great. This is so great. So thank you so much for joining, and
great.
we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Once again, if you would like to learn more about how you can use your unique message and share it with the world through video and create videos that actually are professional and perform, bring you money, and all of the results and influence that you want to make, then I invite you to learn more by going to contentsupply.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon.